of course.
Which I need to change the size on the computer. That's it.
Just throw the two in all good.
I'm just gonna double check that it's live, but we should be good to go in a second.
Yeah, let me know when to start.
No. Is it?
You can start it.
Ready to start? Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out. We really appreciate you being here today. My name is Nastasi Kozak. I'm a marketing intern, and I'm a part of the Lobiazi and Pioneers team. A little bit about me. I'm a senior at Florida State University while majoring in finance and marketing. And let's dive into this workshop today. It's titled How to Turn Your Property into a Gold Mine. And we have a slogan for this workshop. So it's whether you invest in accessory dwelling unit, ADU, or AirBNB or VRBO, you are a winner. And we're going to get a little bit into that as we go along. A little bit of a shout out to our organizers for this event. They made it possible, including Libiazi, including Xenia Home Decor, and Parnage Sign and Construction. We have our lovely panelists presenting today. I would like to give them an opportunity to kind of present themselves and talk a bit about what they do, starting out with Burke Kitchens and Appliances.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure being here. I'm with the Boston team, and one of the showrooms is Burke Kitchens and Appliances. We offer German cabinetry, and we have extensive experience working on small and large projects. We can basically create anything based on the architectural plan. So we, with Fine Art, we worked on many projects now, and we have multitude of steps that we take. She's working on, and her team working on the all the architectural plans. Then, of course, all the feedback from client. Once it gets to us, then our design team puts beautiful layouts, very functional for our clients. And so this way we really bring it all together. We also can create space for whether it's a long-term property or something that is meant to be for Airbnb or ADU, and we can fine-tune it and bring the German engineering into the small space and maximize it. So thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Salem 5.
Yeah, hi. It's Mike Joden with Salem 5, and obviously we're coming through a rate environment that changes up and down. So currently mortgage rates are not the highest they've ever been, not the lowest they've ever been. But when you offset what you're looking at with investment in real estate, obviously that's probably the best investment you can make. It's through real estate. So you have to, regardless of what your vision is, that's what you want to start with, is put your wish list together, figure out what your future looks like for you. And obviously we want to show you the money. You got to make sure it works. So we have to make plans for long term, figure out the best way to invest, in your project, whatever you might be doing, whether it's an investment property or additions to your properties. So we just take a look at individuals' situations. There is no one set way to do it. It's obviously each individual person has their needs, and so we take a look with residential lending that we've been in business since 1855, so we can figure it out So again, put your wish list together, set up your plans, and you want to do that first so you know exactly what it takes to complete the project. And any questions that come up, you can confidently go through the process if you know what the end result's going to be.
Saying thank you so much for sharing. Next up, we have Silverman, Avila, Hirschman, who are CPAs.
Hi, my name is Peter Avila. I'm a partner at Silverman, Avila, and North Berkshire. We're a North Shore CPA firm located in Danvers, Massachusetts. Um, Airbnbs are a great way to maximize your investment in real estate. As long as you charge fair market value rent, you're allowed to deduct all your necessary operating expenses against that rental income. If you happen to rent it for less than 14 days for the year, you don't have to pay any income taxes on that. So there are a lot of benefits to obviously to doing Airbnb. Um, ADUs are going to work similar in the same way. There's another way to maximize the value of your single family home and adding an additional dwelling unit. Um, there's all kinds of deductions that you know obviously you really need to talk with a tax professional, but there's a lot of different deductions that you can take advantage of to reduce your tax liability. There's also some things that you can do down the road as far as 1031 transfers and different things like that to avoid paying taxes in the short run and kick the can down the road. Um, there's different ways that Airbnbs get treated for tax purposes. Really, a lot of it has to do with the amount of personal services that you're providing, whether it falls on a Schedule E or a Schedule C. Um, it's a pretty extensive area, but it's a really exciting area that a lot of clients have really taken advantage of, and it's a really great way to really maximize your investment in real estate.
Amazing. Thank you for what you do. Next up, we have James Nicholas, who's an attorney.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I've been an attorney for 43 years now, mostly litigation, probably had maybe 500 cases in court. I do some local review of local ordinances and bylaws. I don't really hear before local boards too much. I've done that, but nowadays I litigate mostly. Accessory dwelling units have come a long way. I remember 25 years ago, I was recruited to the Topsfield Planning Board to write the in-law apartment bylaw in Topsfield because it was a kind of a new thing then. And I was kind of hogging the computer as I was typing this bylaw. And my 8-year-old daughter comes over. She says, "Daddy, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm writing a bylaw so that Grammy can come live with us." And then her 8-year-old innocent, she said, "Why do we need a law to have Grammy come live with us?" Well, there are substantial laws, and there's a state law which is only a couple of years old, establishing accessory dwelling units. And in the old days, in-law apartments, you had to be related and had to be part of the same principal residence. And nowadays, though, it doesn't have to be any relationship. It used to be that they could only go for a certain period of time, usually a year, and then it had to be renewed. So there's a state law for accessory dwelling units, but the local municipality can further regulate those units. And probably the biggest thing that they regulate is the septic systems. So if an accessory living unit is going to be, accessory dwelling unit is going to be in a town where there's no septic system, that's all well and good. But if you're going to put one in a town with the septic systems, they have to be designed to accommodate the additional dwelling. Um, so you really need, if you're thinking about doing an accessory dwelling unit, they're great, but you got to do your homework, a lot of homework. Probably the best way to start is with the health inspector or the building department in the local community, um, uh, and then you'll be learning from there. I have a whole bunch of materials. I won't go too much into them. And the other thing that Lydia asked me to talk about was Airbnbs. When you refer to an Airbnb, you're kind of like referring to a Kleenex or a Xerox or a Google. Airbnb is a company, uh, a very good company, and I've used them. I probably have rented 5 or 6 Airbnbs over the years in Switzerland and in we were in Barcelona, in San Francisco, and I thought it was great. But they not only market to people like me that are going to be guests, but they also make it really helpful for a host to establish a unit. Um, these are called in the generic term short-term rentals, and they are being very seriously regulated. I have a condominium up in Warren, Vermont, and near Sugarbush, and there's been a lot of the condominiums up there. The condominium owners want to make their market their properties as Airbnb, which competes with the bed and breakfast in town. So they're thinking about some regulations for short-term rentals. And so if you're gonna search for something in a local community, you're better off searching short-term rentals. And again, there are fairly substantial regulations depending on the community. I couldn't find any in Beverly. But in Salem, for example, you need to get a certificate of fitness every year from the Board of Health. And again, you have to comply with the zoning. Sometimes you have to get a special permit. The state law doesn't allow for, well, it has to comply with zoning, and you just have to check the area where you're in. There's a big movement to get away from what has been traditionally known as single-family units. Most of the property was zoned as single-family units, and you could only build one family unit. Nowadays, the idea is, well, to make things more affordable, there's a statute that allows towns to establish starter homes. They could be smaller and more cheap. There's a great flux about zoning. So I can answer some questions, and I won't go on, but that's my job.
Those are great points. Thank you for coming. Our last panelist is Roger Lee. He is a property manager at HLM. I do not believe that he is here.
In like
Not
minutes.
just yet. Yes.
Not just yet.
Couple of
He'll make an
minutes.
introduction
Try
if it comes
traffic.
I am sure. Massachusetts traffic. Let's get to the main question of why are we here. I have 4 main objectives to share with you today. Well, first of all, we're going to learn about investment property and the difference between Airbnb and ADUs. Second of all, we're here to network and learn from each other, and especially an amazing panel of experts. We're here to learn, raise questions, and get our questions answered. And we're in a room with experts that are the best in their business, and they have taken the time to come here and share their wisdom with us. So thank you again for coming. And last but not least, we're here to have fun, as always. A quick shout out to our food and drink sponsors, including Lidiazi, High Arch, Xenia Home Decor, Burke Kitchen and Appliances, and Eva Zhoroshka Thermomix. Thank you guys Thank you guys for coming. Hopefully I didn't butcher that one too much. But yeah, anyway, Lydia.
Hello. Lydia Szydłowska-Fener, Design and Construction, as well as Lee Viazzi. We'll talk about those two a little bit later. But the first things I wanted to kind of start on is just an introductory and the difference between the ADUs and Airbnb in terms of profits, as well as a little bit about regulations and things like that. So as you know, as February 2025, we have a new general law that came into place, and it's a sort of is a positive thing as well as a negative thing. I mean, the laws are there to regulate, correct? So they regulating a lot of things. So some people may think that it's actually going to regulate how Airbnbs are functioning, and then they might cut down a little bit on that as well. But there's always ways around things, and it doesn't mean that you're breaking the law. So let's talk about ADUs and what they are a little bit. So ADUs are accessory dwelling units that are 900 square feet or less. And they can be rented, but not for short term. Can be used for long-term rentals, for example, leases of 6 months or a year, or only short-term rentals like Airbnbs, but it really is highly regulated, as I said before. Everything is depending on the local regulations, and as our attorney here mentioned, it is very, very necessary to reach out to building inspectional services or zoning board of appeals and get to know what is really allowed in that current city or whatever you're trying to have that. Um, it ADUs provide a very steady income, but if you see the dollar signs there, they can be good income. However, the reason for people doing Airbnb is that it's tripling that income. It does, however, provide some sort of a supplementary income, and it is good for your retirement. So we highly recommend them. It does require, IDEO really requires tenant screening, lease agreements, and handling occasional maintenance issues. And we do have one of the panelists here that actually is going to help out with that a little bit. He's more on the maintenance side and how to control that as well. Airbnbs is a short-term rental property of any size, and that is interesting because it could be your own home that you just don't want to live in anymore because you want to go for vacation in Florida and stay there for a little while. So Airbnb specifically caters for the short-term rentals, and actually long-term rentals are prohibited. Anything from 30 days on is not allowed. Hello, Roger. And typically it's from one night to a few weeks. And local regulations and zoning restrictions apply, as I said before. Can potentially Airbnb can potentially generate higher income per night, but there are some downsides to it. For example, it's usually very attractive during the summer season, and most likely it is dead for the winter season in Massachusetts, for example, when we have weather variations. Um, and some of this also some of the problems could be that it's a fluctuating booking rates, and you kind of have to be on the application and check if if the Airbnb is booking or it's not booking, maybe drop prices, maybe try to control it in some way so you are being visible. The other thing that I do want to mention is important is to really maintain the communication with the guests and be very open and clear, have really clear instructions. The check-in and check-out is really important, and cleaning is number one. Like nobody wants to come in and have a problem with their sheets and things like that. Reviews are also important. So whenever somebody has an Airbnb and they need to ask for the reviews and they need to have the positive guest experience, because then you can become a super host. Just general terms, what to do to capitalize on the property, and very really quickly, is that first of all, if somebody doesn't have property yet and they're thinking of having one, the first thing to do is purchase a land or property or home. Look for one, hire a realtor, and consult with an architect before they're buying, because of the zoning restrictions. Some things like that have to be checked. Second thing, get a mortgage or pay cash. So if somebody has cash, great, but not. Budget is hard. Budgeting hard costs and soft costs are really important. Insurance is another thing, because actually for Airbnbs, the insurance is a commercial insurance, so it's not really something you can just have for your home and insure your home. It's actually something that is a little bit more advanced. And last thing on the purchase and land is that you hire a closing attorney, because of course that attorney is going to prepare all the legal work. The second thing is that I do want to touch upon is what we do, which is designed and built. So finding an architect that is able to put all of those things together for you architecturally is great. Having a team that has the architectural portion and the interior design portion, it's another plus. But having to have a construction on top of that is another positive thing, because you can have budgeting done, and you can have a clear idea what you're getting into before you even start the project. So really having the right team makes very much difference. making sure that the septic system meets the requirements is also something that's really important, as James mentioned here, because especially when you're not connected to the city, the bedroom count and the room count really can hurt. And if you have a four-bedroom septic system and you want to do 9 rooms or 10 rooms or 11 rooms, that's when you're going to get into the trouble and the Board of Health is going to say no to you. Providing sleeping up accommodations for Airbnbs are number one. Of course, as many beds as possible is what we want to target. But again, those regulations might be a problem. And last thing on that design build is to furnish the rooms to meet the guest expectation is a big deal, and we will talk about that a little bit today too. So do it right. Proper insurance, hire an attorney for contracts, respond to bookings, and cleaning and maintenance team is important. And therefore, because Roger is here, I would like to introduce him a little bit. Roger, would you like to say a couple of things
Hi.
about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Roger Lee. I am the Airbnb community leader from Massachusetts. I have been in short-term rental world for about 5 years, and I turned into a full-time host a little over a year ago. And within this year, I've already had over 100 guests, and I currently manage 12 Airbnbs in Boston area and up to northern Maine.
I met Roger in one of the other presentations. It was very interesting. It was in one of the, I think it was Waltham, I believe. And I got really fascinated with what everybody was saying there, and I was inspired by that. So that's why we put this together here for the Nurture, just to make sure that people understand all those concepts and complicate manners of that matter. So I'm going to pass, just as an introduction, like to pass the mic, which I don't have, to Magda from Xenia Home and Decor, and she can explain a little bit about our relationship and okay, it's about us.
My name is Magda Sadowska. I moved from Poland 8 years ago. I met Lydia 2 years ago, and we became friends, but we became also the partners. I represent the Zenia company, and Lydia, she's an architect, but she's also the interior designer. And we started to cooperate because I bring furniture from Poland, and I do that procurement. So we connected our businesses, our vision, what to bring, how to bring, and we both focus on the quality and about the how beautiful furniture we should bring to the clients. Yep. So it's maybe more about Lydia because she's a designer and in the beginning of her process, how to speak with the client and how it looks and how to become to procurement, what we put together. So I don't know, Lydia, maybe you want to say more word about how you work so I can add my portion about the procurement, how it looks, the process of deliver the product.
Yes, so it's really a little bit simple. You can see on the board a little bit that it starts with the design, and so there's initial code, batches on the fly that we do, and proposal. Then we go straight to measurements, layouts and renderings come next, and then we select the items for pricing. And then when the client approves everything and they love the design, this is where it kind of goes into the next phase, which is the purchasing. So at Liviasi, together with Xenia, we're able to merge the two worlds, which used to be separate, right? The design was separate and the procurement was separate. Now, what we thought about is why don't we just make it nice and smooth process and create that one shopping experience, with design being a very important aspect. But
Yeah,
also
better the client needs as well. Yeah.
yes.
So we decided to it's so about the procurement, as I told before, we import goods from Poland. and it looks basically like placing the order is like a waiting for the customized products for about 4 to 6 weeks for the production process, and later about 4 to 6 weeks delivery process. So we suggest our clients, for everyone, to think ahead of this process, but it's not happening in one day. Otherwise, we want like cheap stuff from the, I don't want to say the company brands. Yes, but a good quality customized products.
Okay. And I would like to introduce Adriana Fernandez, who is actually part of Pioneer in Live Yasi. And she's a wonderful designer. She can introduce herself a little bit, and she will talk a little bit about Airbnb design and what's so important about it.
Hi, I'm Adriana. I'm part of Libiasi and Fine Arts team. I have 2 degrees, architecture and master in interior design here in Boston, and I'm going to talk about why it's important interior design on Airbnbs. So when we think about Airbnb, we have to think about guests. We have to think about the experience we want the guest experience, and at the same time, not only visual, but think about functional spaces and comfort spaces. So here, as we have on the presentation, we have to think about cohesive color scheme, what feeling we want to trigger on the client, on the guest, about comfortable bedrooms, multi-purpose furniture so we can have different setup in one space, about the visual appealing with lighting, at the same time add personality with accent and art as some decor elements. And here on this presentation, we have some living room examples and different shapes, fabric textures, at the same time, different living room setups. And Magda will talk about more about the multi-purpose furniture. Here is an example how we do our project at Libiasi. So we first meet the client, we do the measurement, we coordinate with them about the style, what they want to feel on the space. We also give them the amount of element they can have in one space, how many armchairs, sofa, coffee table, and then we show them on a mood board how these elements will combine together, about how colors we contrast each other, texture, fabrics. We have a lot of samples here at the showroom, and they can touch the feeling and have also the experience with the furniture as well. Here are some examples for Airbnb that we work with. Here is the kitchen. We have to think about functionality, how many appliances, what are the most important appliances they will need in this Airbnb. Same for the bathroom, how many bathrooms they need, depending on how many guests and the square footage of the space. Here are some living room example, bedroom, which is super important because it's a part of comfort, where they're gonna sleep and they're gonna have the memorable experience.
Yes. So about this experience, so as I told before, we offer furniture, and we can also supply the ADU owners or Airbnb owners with the smart functional furniture. That furniture that can save some space. They have different functions like sleeping sofas, corner sleeping sofas, but also we offer products very good quality that is durable, that stays for long. So it's I think crucial for the investment, and also for the Airbnb clients. Our products are like beautiful, so the design is like a catching place of the clients. So we can with the client with the customers, yes, for the Airbnb. So yeah, so that's it. That's it.
And the catalog, yeah.
Yeah, we have catalogs. We prepare catalogs, so if someone is interested, we can of course talk more about that. But you can see what we offer. But this is just a part because we have much more. and everything is customized. So each sofa we presented here can be in different shape, different size, different colors, different fabric. So if you're interested, just please ask me only to see us.
Okay, you can scan this QR code, and this is going to be sent out later also to everybody. And it's a little bit about the functional furniture, and there's a little bit of price list, and whoever is interested today, they get a special discount of 20% off because they attended this webinar. And all you have to do is email us. It's called Liviasi20, and you'll get the discount. Okay. How do you want to? Well, it's me again. Lydia Chubisco. We're just going to talk a little bit about ourselves, which is Fine Art Design and Construction. This is our main company. This is where we actually do commercial architecture and residential architecture, but also the construction. We've been in the business since 2005, and we got numerous awards. And it's just a short intro that I wanted to present today. I'm not going to go in depth, but I really want to talk about what exactly is an ADU, and this is really the purpose of today's workshop. So, an ADU is a small residence that shares a single family lot with a larger primary dwelling unit. So, how is this, like, when you see this picture here, you can have an ADU that's detached, attached, that could be on the upper level of your primary residence. It could be in your basement. It could be above the garage or take over the garage. And it would be called a garage conversion. It has to be below 900 square foot or half of your primary residence. Okay, so that's a very important key. There's a lot of regulations, and everybody should check the main sheets with that. But I'm going to hit the main points with that. As it's a self-contained independent living space with its own kitchen or kitchenette, bathroom, sleeping area, and a separate entrance. An ADU can be located within the attached or detached from the main residence, which is really important as well, because see the first image here, it says detached. So it can be a small house. And what's interesting, there's a lot of information here. I'm not going to go through everything in here. But what's interesting about the detached is that, for example, you cannot have a garage because the garage can be converted later on. So they really want you to have just a carport. The second important thing in here is that your small residence cannot, if it has a basement, the basement will be treated also as part of the square footage. So you don't want to it would be best if you don't have the basement, or if the basement is less than the required finished space that's usually by the code. So 6'8" is the maximum ceiling height for finished space. And that would be where you would not want to have that height to be met, because it would be considered that you have a bigger unit. So the best thing is to really talk to people that know a lot about it, because otherwise you may be in trouble. So these all of the standards and all of this has to be reviewed. Sometimes a historical meaning is also important of where the residence is located, if it's in the historic district. Sometimes it could be pre-existing conditions. I really don't want to get too much into this because it's very time consuming and we are on some time restrictions. So, but I do want to mention what are the benefits of ADUs. So providing rental income for property owners enables more options for older adults to live right with you. If you are a family and you want to have the in-law apartment, it's no longer called in-law apartment, it's just called an ADU. Long-term residents can stay in a neighborhood they love and they know, sometimes for a longer time. So it adds also smaller rental units to the housing inventory. And this is really the purpose of creating the ADUs and the states of Massachusetts, because the housing was really low and they needed to provide more, and this is why that regulation happened. So it increases affordable housing, and one of the benefits is that it's smart because the compact growth makes use of our existing land use, structures, and infrastructure. These are just a couple of examples, and we threw this as case studies because people love case studies because it's real, right? So this one was an apartment, 900 square feet. You see it on the right side. You see two entrances, and that's okay. It needs to have two means of egress. That's really required right now because it's treated kind of like a two-family. One of the important things is also that this was highly regulated with a septic system, because the number of bedrooms were counted. So we needed to deduct one bedroom from the primary dwelling unit and sacrifice it for the other side. Some key considerations also is, as I said before, the ceiling minimum height has to be 6'8" to the beam has to be minimum of 6'4". And this is an attached, this is just a floor plan. This is what we do. It looks very complicated. You don't have to know much about it, but these are one of the things that I just wanted to show. Hello. Detached ADUs example are also here. When you see some of the detached structures, it's a separate house. It could be really attractive. It doesn't have to be a box. It could have some interesting dormers. The actual height and volume does not matter too much, as long as it's not two-story, because it could be filled. So if it's like double, then they would perceive that as, oh no, you can't have that because you can build a second story when you close the permit. Another thing that I do want to mention, so this is an example of a basement ADU, and that's a kitchenette and like a master bathroom suite that could be also used for in-law. And another couple of pictures here. And this is just our process, which is very much of a design and a construction process following after that. Again, it looks very similar at the beginning to the interiors project. But then I think my husband just disappeared here, but Mihao is actually the one that would talk a little bit about what the process, what the construction cost is, and what the actual construction of the project, what kind of intricacies we could find in there. So I'd like to thank you, as this is the final words for the presentation for Pinearch, and I would love to welcome some questions, or maybe to the panelists. If anybody have any questions to anybody in this room, please shout. Any questions?
Can I just add that what you were saying about the furniture was
Yeah.
like spot on. Like, so when you're picking furniture, you definitely want something that's comfortable, but also like very wear and tear resistant. Fabrics that are easy to clean, and then having the like functionality of turning into a bed is really beneficial for you, because if you can sleep
Yes.
a couple people, that'll bring up your daily rate.
Yes, it's probably one of the first questions that we ask. How many beds do you have? Can you show us the pictures, right?
Yeah.
We actually do own an Airbnb, and this is just a real life experience. So we were not speaking of somebody else's example, but also ours. So here's my husband. Actually, he showed up. Would you like to say anything about the construction process a little bit, and what you think is important and the Airbnb? You've done quite a few of them.
Airbnb.
Airbnb and generally ADUs. What do you think? What's your take on this? Would you like to say anything? Yes, later. Okay, that sounds good. Okay. Anybody else? I think that perhaps if we could maybe ask particular questions from like the CPA point of view or the mortgage point of view, anything that you have in mind for our listeners over here and online. Would you like to say anything? What would be your take on that? Yeah.
It's definitely a very detailed process. There's a lot of steps to it. And again, it's just yeah, you have to have that vision to start with. And then you really do need, you know, you need a team. You need a group of professionals to be able to piece it together. To think about these things that, well, I didn't think about that aspect. And just, not dive into it without knowing the end game.
Yeah.
So that's it's nice to see you kind of putting the whole picture together, with, oh yeah, there's this piece and this piece and this piece, and you recognize that because you're walking people through it, and someone might not just, starting from scratch. That would be something I would look at to talk to someone and say, yeah, well, you need to check with the CPA, with the attorney, with the builder. You do have to put a team together, but yeah,
So
yeah,
for a
just
person that would like to, let's say they have a single family home and they would like to have an investment property, what would you say they would have to have aligned for the to have an investment property?
well, it'll vary per individual for sure. There's no cookie cutter to it. But that's what we try to figure out is, what's going to fit the individual. So I think everybody does that here, right? You have to find out the needs and the wants, and piece it together, to, think about it. And yeah, what's the income going to be? What's the difference? How do you handle the issues that'll pop up? And when you have experience, when you've got someone that's been in the business for a while, they think about, sometimes that's what I do is think about what can go wrong, more than, what's going right, because you just got to be careful, steering people and, trying to help them out. And
So
yeah,
it's for like single, like if I, let's say, wanted to buy a single family home or an investment property interest wise or down payment wise.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. This definitely, you are going to see a difference. This regulations have come into play where, it's much more sensitive these days. What's going on with the property? And but again, just once we know the facts, you just start piecing it together. And again, whichever way you're going with real estate, it's just, I think it's the best investment you can make, and if you're going to enjoy it and be comfortable with it and benefit from it the most, again, getting the advice of multiple people, in their fields, I think that's going to help you out the most. Don't try to take it all on yourself because there's no way you can do it.
So, Peter, what would be your take on this in terms of setting up an Airbnb in terms of the taxes?
Well, in terms of taxes, Airbnbs work fairly similar to traditional rental property. Um, there are some things, obviously when you start an Airbnb, you have to be very careful of documenting, keeping track of all your expenses, all your income. Um, just from a tax standpoint, there are, a whole bunch of different laws regarding whether you're an active participant or a passive participant, different things like that. But it's a like I had said before, it's a great way of maximizing your investment in real estate, and it gives you the opportunity. The ADUs obviously allow you to build a separate dwelling unit on your property, which is fantastic. But once you build it, the regular rental laws that are out there now come into effect, and it's going to be treated the same way as if you bought a multifamily home. And the same thing's going to work with the Airbnb. With the Airbnb, it's a little bit different because it's short-term rentals. So the rules are a little bit different with that, and a lot of the time, people are using their a vacation home that they might use personally or their own primary residence, and then you start getting into where you have personal use and business use or rental use, and then you start getting into situations where you have to start allocating the expenses and things like that. Um, it's a little bit more time consuming. It's something that your CPA will do for you, obviously. You just provide the information. But those are some of the differences that, between an Airbnb and a regular rental. But yeah.
If I remember when we started, you actually filled out a lot of paperwork for us. So thank you so much. And I think this is great to have somebody like this that know what they're doing. They can point you to the right direction. And also the legal things like having the investment property being on a different LLC perhaps is a good idea. So all of these things we learn through our relationships, and it's really good to have you all here and talking about all these things because we need to be aware of that before we get started. Great. Thank you so much, everybody. I don't know if anybody else has a question. Maybe you have a question?
Well, I've always wondered. So my name is Spiro, by the way. I'm actually in residential and commercial solar.
Mhm.
So I've always wondered, since it's a new build, right? Uh, the last piece of the puzzle would be adding a solar system,
Mhm.
since everything's in the electric, right?
Yes.
So I don't know, I haven't really done an ADU yet, but what the regulations would be, essentially building a solar system on top of an ADU. If you
Yes.
guys have had any experience with that.
So it is not mandatory to build a solar system on top of it. It's actually treated a little bit less as a less demanding requirement than if you're building a new structure. It they are the requirements are not as high as for a single family home, to be honest. So but it is always nice, right? The systems are great, and actually a specialist in that area would be my Michał Szydłowski, who is building, and he actually builds homes, high performance homes. So he would be able to tell you what is best in this case, what kind of systems to choose to connect it to the solar panels later on in the future.
Awesome.
It is not required, but everybody wants to have that charger at least, right? For the future of the EV driving experience.
And I also want to add, so for whether you have an ADU or Airbnb and having kitchenette or kitchen, it's very also important to utilize very efficient appliances, and then also be conscious of the space. So you're gonna scale down, especially for Airbnb guests. They most likely not gonna use it as a full kitchen experience, but sometimes when it's like a week stay, they do want to mix it up and not always go out and have ability to enjoy a homemade meal. So with that, that's one of the things that should be planned really wisely, and that will definitely add and bring more guests in that.
Polina, do you have any solutions for the new future homeowners that are trying to do an Airbnb? Do you have lines that would actually be quite affordable for the and for the investors in this case? That you would be able to fit something into their budget, or could you elaborate on that a little?
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great question. So we have several collections that we offer to our clients, and we have special product line that is very quick turnaround, and it has a smaller collection items, but you can create full kitchen with it, and basically have the German quality and engineering portion to it with very affordable stuff. And then, of course, if someone wants to make it, more of an investment and see if there's maybe in-laws gonna move in into place, then we also can play with that and have a different level of cabinetry as well for that. And in terms of pricing, I'd say about $6,000 to $20,000. That would be like a cabinetry price. It may be less, or more, so we can plan accordingly and just see what's the project's budget is, so we can plan it accordingly and satisfy the clients.
Yes, I've been in the shower many times. They have great selections of finishes, and I'll tell you that they're a little bit different than the standard that we see every day. So if you wanted to go in and check it out a little bit, they're located right in the Linfield Marketplace in Linfield.
Yes.
And it is a really true pleasure to always go and visit and touch some of the finishes that they have to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, everyone is welcome, and it's certainly part of the idea of in addition to appliances, every cabinet should provide maximum storage and functionality, and it's very easy to see it in person. We can always, if the client's, for instance, out of state or traveling, we can always do Zoom calls. But yes, being in person, it's always a better experience. So yes, everyone welcome to stop by. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate. I would like you to leave us a review everywhere possible. Liviazi, Fine Art Design Construction, as well as everybody that's present here. We will send some follow-up links and catalogs and things like that that you can see and venture. And that would be it. Thank you so much. We can move upstairs. So.
Kershaw, it's in your firm, Scott Kershaw. I high school with Scott. St. John's. Yeah.